The Apple iPhone 16 goes on sale tomorrow for pre-order, and you could actually get ready for doing a pre-order now. And you'll see that this phone is going to come in at $799. If you don't have a carrier plan with this, it's going to be about $829 unlocked. They have the ultramarine color. They're also going to have the teal color, which is the color option I'm going with. Little spoiler for you right there. Pink, which is a more of a bright pink now. You also have the white color option, and you also have the black color option. Now, if you go up to 512 gig, you'll notice that this phone goes over $1,000. So now you're paying over $1,000 for a 512 gig 60 hertz panel. Let's find out though, which are the best upgraded phones that you should upgrade to the iPhone 16 in this episode. So let's talk about the very first iPhone here, the iPhone XR and 11. And I'm going to clump these ones together here because they're essentially the same phone, with the 11 getting a little bit better battery life, slightly faster CPU, a little more RAM, and an extra camera. So the 11 is a little bit more of a refined XR, but they essentially you're going to get the same basic upgrades. When you go here, you're going to get a much more fresher design because this is a much clunkier, older looking build. While it is bigger and thicker and very sturdy product here in the 11. No Apple Intelligence support. While they still have iOS 18 coming 11. Also, you do have, it's a no-brainer upgrade if you're looking for better cameras, better battery life. And one of the biggest things here for the 11 and the XR is mostly going to be in the way of performance. These phones are starting to warm up a little because of their older CPUs, and they simply just don't feel as fast as the newer phones do. Even some of the recent newer phones feel so much faster than these. In addition, A13 Bionic, we're on the A18. We're 5 chips ahead here. So I think this is really a no-brainer upgrade to go to the newer phone here. These upgrades are going to be massive for you, and you could just ignore the chatter if you're thinking about getting a phone. Like, oh, iPhones are so the same. They never change. From this one, I mean, look at these bezels now. Look at that notch. This one, I mean, everything changed from this one. So definitely, if you have one of these, XR, 11, massive upgrade is a definite recommended upgrade. All right, so the next model that you should consider upgrading to the iPhone 16 is going to be the iPhone 12. This was the first year of the squared body 5G performance for the iPhone here. And this product right here also got a really nice speed boost over the iPhone 12, the iPhone 11, excuse me. This phone was pretty snappy at the time. Really decent cameras here, A14 CPU, but retained the 4 gigs. This one was all about the design change, the squared body. 5G was a big deal. Also had the vertical camera, and if you like the vertical camera layout, it's coming back here. A major issue with the iPhone 12 at the time, especially the base model 12, was the battery life. It was just not good on this phone. This phone I was charging at like 6-7 o'clock at night. This one was really pushing it with not getting me through a full day. So honestly, the battery life on this model was trash, but you can see that it is giving me a really nice iOS 18 experience, and that was a little laggy on that swipe through, but I'm not on the official RC right now for this phone. But also, this phone brought had ultra wide cameras on here, just like the older 11 Pro did. But it didn't have no zoom. The zoom was terrible on this phone, and you're getting a little bit more zoom. You're going to 2x zoom, and even more on the furthest reach, which is like 10 on the newer one. So definitely really nice. Also, you see where the 5G antenna has been located for most of these years. Now you're going to get a capture button here. Also, pretty much all the older iPhones, because they don't have action buttons, all the 16s are going to make them feel a little bit dated with their older hardware buttons. So while this phone is still a nice product on the surface, OLED display, squared body, the iPhone 12 here is just kind of getting long in the tooth. It just feels like an older product. It just feels like this been out for like 5 years already, even though it's been 4. It just feels like forever this phone's been out. So I would upgrade this one for sure. If you want better camera, way better battery life, you want to use Apple Intelligence, and you want a capture button with far improved cameras over the 12. So the 12 is a definite upgrade for sure once again. All right, and the next one, if you take a look, has been dropped from the lineup. It's the Apple iPhone 13. And this one, should you upgrade this one? Well, this is the first phone on this list that I'm going to talk about here that I think if you didn't want to do it, if you want a radical redesign, I think you can wait. But the new one definitely has a lot of nice upgrades over the 13. It has the capture button with the haptic zooming and stuff like that. You'll have a different camera design. They went diagonal, but this is typical Apple. Switch it up. They go back to the diagonal. But in 2 years, we're going to go back to another diagonal. We'll see what happens. This one had a different notch, and this one always was pretty snappy with its performance. The Apple A15 Bionic stayed in the iPhone 14, which made that phone basically a useless upgrade for a lot of people. 4 gigabytes of RAM. The 14 had 6 gigs, but that still doesn't support Apple Intelligence, so what's the point? The iPhone 13 was a great used pickup, but now you have the 14 for the same price, so I'm assuming some people are going to buy that phone for a used price, but it's hard to recommend any of the phones prior to the iPhone 15 Pros because none of them get the latest feature, Apple Intelligence. Like, why invest in a phone that is not even the technology that Apple's investing in for the future, which is their AI stuff, the Apple Intelligence? But you can see, and some people say, well, Nick, stop beating that point home. That's a gimmick, bro. It might be a gimmick to you, but eventually it's going to be incorporated across the platform in an easy way fashion that it just makes it's just a better experience to use. So, and the way Apple's putting the rewrite features and stuff into the iOS, it's kind of simple. This is not like complicated AI stuff. It's pretty simple, just enhancing the experience. The iPhone, the 13, though, had really good consumer-oriented cameras. I really loved how these cameras, you could just take a photo in pretty much any scenario. They would always be in focus. Ultra wide was good. There was none of this focus peaking, none of that stuff. Video was a phenomenal. This was like the perfect consumer grade camera for an iPhone. And I think the 16 is going to give us a similar feel to the 13 where it had good battery life, great cameras, just really nice overall just package. And I think even some people with pros are going to consider just getting the base 16. That's how good I think this upgrade is going to be over the 13. However, this is one of those phones that if you want to wait till the 17's more radical design changes, you could hold on to this one. It's still pretty good, but definitely 13, I do recommend the upgrade if you want pretty much a similar kind of like really good all around package, but you still want to get a new iPhone. I do think the 13 is worthy the upgrade to the 16. Also, a lot of my points about the 13 also applied to the iPhone 14. Almost everything I said, I actually am not going to show the 14 here because I sold that phone. I wasn't a fan of it. I like the 13 more, so I got rid of it, but all the points are the same basically that I covered here for the 14 because that phone was nearly an identical copy besides having like action mode and extra 2 gigs of RAM. It was almost the exact same phone. Pretty boring upgrade actually to the 14. Let's take a look at my next one. And this one is not technically a base model phone. This is the 14 Pro. But you might be wondering, what the heck do you have that in here? You should just do the Pros. Well, the only reason I'm adding this is to talk about the Pros. Some people, this is a wild card. Some people might actually have found themselves thinking their iPhone 14 Pro not getting Apple Intelligence. The newer base 16 has 8 gigs of RAM. Should I just go with that base model and just dump this phone? And I think there's something to be said about that. This phone does have a nice ultra wide, but this doesn't zoom super far. The 14 Pro, the new 16 zooms about the same distance now. In addition, the new 16 has a capture button. This doesn't have it. It also has an action button. This doesn't have it. The new 16 also retains a dynamic island that this phone had. It also has a similar screen, 6.1 inches, and it gets similarly bright and it's faster and it supports Apple Intelligence. So I think if you have a 13 Pro and a 14 Pro and you found yourself saying, you know what, I'm done with the upgrades to these Pros. I don't really need a Pro. I don't care about the 120 hertz. I think this upgrading from a 14 Pro to a 16 regular or even a 13 Pro to a 16 regular is a decent consideration. You can also get a little bit more money for the 13 Pro and the 14 Pro when you do consider upgrading. So that is a wild card. I don't think everybody's going to go for that because a lot of people buy the Pros, just want the best of the best. But it is a thing to consider if you don't really need the Pro features. You find yourself not using them a lot. The 16, I think, is going to be pretty much, besides the 60 hertz, a better phone than the iPhone 14 Pro in pretty much every area. Better battery life than this, better cameras, better speed, Apple Intelligence, probably a lighter build. So it's got a lot of upgrades even over the 14 Pro. Honestly, I'm most disappointed out of the bunch of phones here with the iPhone 15. And it's very weird to say that because it has a beautiful build of last year, diagonal cameras, but this one, and has good zoom. This phone, what disappoints me the most about this is that this phone is probably the most outdated phone ever in the history of base iPhones. This one is 1 year old. And first of all, it has a diagonal camera. So now with the vertical lens, 1 year old, this already looks dated because they're going back to the vertical. I can understand 13, 12, those are older phones, but 12 has vertical actually, 13 and 14. But this is just last year, vertical camera changes the look. 60 hertz. We're still getting 60 hertz again. That's not everybody's biggest concern, but no Apple Intelligence. The headlining feature of this year, not making it to a phone that's just 1 year old. And Apple says it's because of this one thing, 6 gigabytes of RAM. They want to ensure that the Apple Intelligence runs properly. However, I feel like this phone is plenty fast enough to run it. For some reason, I just have a feeling of that. It's A16, 6 gigabytes of RAM, and maybe it can't run every single thing, but it should be able to run most of it. And maybe some things they could pull back on and just make a light version of the Apple Intelligence for the old phones. That would be nice. But other than that, it just feels like this phone was a really nice upgrade, and then the 16 comes out, and now this is outdated because of Apple Intelligence mostly. If that one feature wasn't there, I would say this is not a good upgrade, but I would actually probably consider upgrading the 15. And the reason why is because I can get a lot of money for this. I would sell this, get nearly most of the price off of the iPhone 16. I would sell this third party, not trade in, because you're going to still pay quite a bit of money. I would sell this like $600, maybe $700 on the side. But you're probably not gonna get 7, maybe 5 or 6 on the side, and then only pay like a couple hundred and get the 16 with the proper Apple Intelligence support, the 8 gigabytes of RAM, the A18, which matches the Pro chips. But not everybody's gonna do that. I'm not saying your phone is old trash just because it's a year old. I'm just saying it's just disappointing that I just purchased this last year, and I'm already not getting Apple Intelligence on this base model. So that's my take on the base models here right now, if you should upgrade. In conclusion, I feel like the 16s are a really, really nice upgrade this year. I'm going to cover both of them. I'll start with the base 16 first because that's the one I think more people are going to buy. I'll cover the Plus in a couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so after. But I do think that this is definitely going to be a worthy upgrade for a lot of people, especially if you're just an everyday user who just wants just a simple, great action button. You want a great Apple Intelligence experience, a capture button, or you just want a really good upgrade to your iPhone and battery life, camera, just the main points that you always want in your phone. It's going to be a decent upgrade. The only thing is if you really want a ProMotion display, you got to go for the Pros. I'm also pretty excited for the 6.3 inch version of the 16 Pro because that one is a new size for us to enjoy this year. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them down below in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. And if you have any of these or anyone I didn't mention and you plan on upgrading, you're a little confused still which one to get, drop it in the comments. A lot of people are very interested in this subject and they will chime in the comments. And I will also be chiming in down there as well. So I'll see you down there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and happy pre-order Friday. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.